What is the best way to win a war? A simple answer is to win it without fighting. Why? Because war is expensive. This is one of the most valuable lessons that you can learn from The Art of War by Sun Tzu, one of the most respected books on strategic planning. Hi, my name is Tekson Teo, a strategic planning coach. When we talk about the art of war, it's very easy to think about war, think about fighting, because the title of the book is about war. But in fact, the best way to win a war is not to fight. And this is what Sun Tzu advocates. Why? Because war is expensive. When there's a war, there's a loss of life, breaking of families, misallocation of resources, and so on and so forth. It brings widespread suffering. And if we can avoid having a war, we should avoid it. But the thing is, we use the art of war for business and life as well. We know that conflicts are inevitable, and sometimes we have to resort to fighting to come to a solution. For example, if you are in business and you are faced with a determined competitor who wants to destroy you, what are you going to do? You can't be just sitting there doing nothing. You have to find a way out. Probably you have to resort to fighting. But having said that, it is important for us to bear in mind that fighting is only one of the avenues to achieve victory. And how do you win without fighting in that case? For that, it is important for us to understand what winning means. In other words, we need to have a clear definition of victory. If you have a clear definition of victory, then you may recognize that in fact, the best way to achieve victory is not to fight. And it is for this that Sun Tzu suggests 4 types of victory. What are they? Well, number 1 is that you can win with the use of strategy. Number 2 is that you can win with the use of alliances. And number 3, well, you have to fight. You have to fight with the enemy's army. And the 4th, which is actually the worst one and you should avoid it at all costs, is to attack a walled city. Let's look at each of them in terms. Number 1 is to win by strategy. Well, we either would prevent the enemy from achieving their plans, or that you come up with the plans that you can achieve your victory without having to fight with the enemies. And one of the ways to do it in business is to adopt the blue oceans strategy. In other words, you carve out a space of your own to create value without having to fight with anybody. For example, when Airbnb first started, what they did is that they worked directly with property owners and also the customers by providing with a platform to connect them. So although they are in the travel accommodation sphere, they are not competing with the dominant player, which is the hotel owners. And so because they are doing things differently, and they are creating a different types of relationship between the property owner and the customers, it creates a kind of value that people want, in addition to the kind of value that hotels provide. And so it went parallel without having to fight with each other, and it gives Airbnb a safe haven to grow into a force to be reckoned with. So this is an example of how you can win without having to fight. You win with a good strategy. So this is number 1. The number 2 way for you to win a victory is by the use of alliances. Well, there's an example. In Southeast Asia, there's a company known as Grab. It's a ride-hailing company, something like Uber. When it first started, now it's a ride-hailing company, so the competitors that you're facing actually are the taxi companies, the fleet owners. But what Grab did at the beginning was that instead of fighting with taxi companies head on, it worked with the taxi drivers, it worked with the taxi fleets by providing them with a platform so that they can manage the ride-hailing more effectively. And so because of that, again, it carves out a space of its own. And it did not have to fight with the competitors who were dominant players, who were very powerful. Of course, the kind of competition evolves, and now, in fact, Grab also directly competing with taxi companies, but at least at the beginning, it did not have to fight to win. So this is the second type of victory. Only when you can't do this, whether win by strategy or win by alliances, that you have to resort to fighting. In this case, you really have to face your competitor head on. Well, you have to compete with them in the terrain. Maybe there would be cost cutting, or maybe there would be fighting for market share and things like that. But it's something that if you can avoid it, because it's expensive. And if you can avoid the fourth type of victory at all costs, why? Because it's about fighting a walled city. What does a walled city mean? It means that the enemy is totally prepared for you. Either they are very strong, or that they have some advantages, for example, some legislation advantages for them, or that they have some territory advantages, or they have some timing advantages. In any case, they are all there preparing to face your attack, and it can be very expensive. Even if you have a very powerful resource to back you up, and that you can crush them, still it is very expensive, and if you can, avoid it. So as you can see, there are four types of victories, and it doesn't mean that you had to fight. Preferably, if you can use strategy or alliances, then you'll be able to win without having to fight. Then you have more of your time, energy, and resources to be devoted to something that will help you to grow stronger instead of having to fight. What do you think? Well, this is what's fascinating about The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It gives you inspirations on how you can use whatever resources that you have to achieve your success naturally. Naturally means that you are not using force to win, but rather you use the law of nature to achieve your results. And this is what I find to be something that's very unique about The Art of War, and that's the reason that I would like to share with you more about it. And I hope you have enjoyed the video so far as much as I do. I hope to see you again soon, and we are going to talk more about The Art of War. Stay tuned.